I'm building the most automated wholesale operation that I can. Now we close everything over the phone, typically in one call. We've never had this before where the majority of our leads are getting locked up within the first 24 hours. We've been doing the quick pitch, and literally we're just straight up asking them at the gate. Like, so they're like, hey, you know, is this so-and-so owner of whatever? I saw you filled out a form at home on offer. Cool. How much you want for the property? What's up, Wealth Builders? Today, I've got a familiar face. You might know this man from the second greatest podcast in the world, the Wealthy Investor Podcast. They just recently got over 20,000 subscribers.
There we go.
Shout out to Brian Davila. What's up?
What up, baby? So that's how I start my podcast every time, with the #1 podcast for flippers, wholesalers, and entrepreneurs.
It is the #1 for that.
It is.
I said it's #2 in the world, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This podcast might be bigger right now.
Yeah.
But for flippers, wholesalers, and entrepreneurs, I think we're #1.
You're #1.
Yeah. It's a statistical fact if you Google it.
Yep.
Google #1 podcast, Brian Davila, we're the first thing that comes up.
Yep. Statistics, stats, math.
Yeah.
From a high school dropout. So let's talk about just 2025. You know, we did a show about a year ago, just talking about, you know, lessons learned from the last year and preparing for the following year. And, you know, as we're in Q4 right now, you know, by the time this episode comes out, it'll be Q4. You know, your year's basically over.
Yeah.
You know, everything that happens in Q4 is going to be a product of everything you did in Q2 and Q3.
Yeah.
So this is the time you start preparing for next year.
100%.
So, you know, what are you seeing in your own business right now? And let's just talk about, let's talk about your year in 2024.
Yeah.
You know, going back hard into flipping and wholesaling and everything, and what your plans are.
Well, 2024 was a tough year, I think, for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, realistically, I think.
Isn't it funny how nobody wanted to say anything?
Yeah. Everyone acts like it's all good and they're trying to put on like a happy face. But I think in business and in real estate, it's been a tougher year.
Yeah.
I think that it weeded out a lot of people. I think there's less competition. So I think there's going to be more opportunity when the market turns around. I think for me personally, I went back into flipping and wholesaling and then realized that flipping houses just isn't it right now. Like, so if you're only flipping houses, I believe you're just playing with fire.
Yeah.
And there's better ways to do it. You're going the hard way. So I think wholesaling, novations, other methods are a lot easier than trying to do whole house flips.
Yeah.
I think we could teach people on this podcast how to make 7 figures, you know, in other ways. But yeah, that's how my year went. But the main thing that I'm focused on right now is building the team that's going to make 7 figures for 2025.
Yeah.
Because I think for me personally, I'm not in that hustle grind stage anymore. So I have to build a team to do acquisitions, dispositions, and running the business, because I kind of refuse to just be on the phones like how I have been the last 8 years.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I didn't want to talk about this on here, but we're going to do it anyways. So, you know, by the time this comes out, maybe people will have already attended this masterclass or this workshop we got coming up. But, you know, I'm calling it the Cashflow 2.0 method.
Oh.
Yeah. It's new.
What is it?
Well, I think you actually described it a little bit, where you said, hey, dude, I'm trying to figure out how to make 7 figures without having to make all the calls and dials and everything else. Because, you know, you built your career on, first you were doing outbound cold calling, then you started doing other forms of marketing, then you started doing networking and social media and building relationships and, you know, all those things. And then we've worked together and we've done millions of dollars in marketing and sales. And so, like, we have this broad range of a decade of experience in real estate and education and everything. But if you were really to break down what it is we're looking for as just people and business owners and everything, at the end of the day, we're looking for what we'd call cash flow. You know, like, we want to make money without being directly responsible for that specific sale.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you know, realtors, other people, it's like, I have to trade hours for money. And so if I go work a certain amount of hours, I get paid this much money. If I close this many deals myself as a salesperson, then I'll make, you know, whatever commission on those sales. But it's always dependent on you trading time for money.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, how can you start having other people or assets make you money. And this is why I think rental properties became so attractive in the last 15 years. Because, by the way, rental properties weren't really like this big asset class until after the crash. Like hedge funds, all that stuff, they came in and started buying real estate rentals, single family, as an asset class after 2008. Like, it wasn't really this thing. They bought commercial buildings and stuff, but not single family. That was like always for mom and pops and stuff. But then they saw it was this massive way to create cash flow and great return and everything else. And like, I think people have kind of like not realized in the last 15 years, single family real estate isn't really about cash flow anymore. Like, the average home in Vegas is like $500,000. And what does it rent for? $3,000?
Yeah.
You know, what's your mortgage?
It's like 35.
It's like 3,500. That's not even repairs, property management.
Yeah.
You will literally lose $1,000 a month on a normal home. And even if you got it at a great deal, you got it at $450, $420. Your mortgage is still it's $2,500 and it rents for $2,500, but you still have all those other expenses.
Yeah. So cash flow and rentals is a myth.
Today it is.
Yeah.
And people will say, well, dude, you could do Airbnbs. You could split the rooms.
Yeah.
You could do, it's like, yeah, you could do all these things, but the more things you have to do to generate this extra revenue makes it less and less passive.
Yeah. It's not passive.
You're building a mini business in every house.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do.
Yeah. And I think like, so for me personally, I have lost at least $250,000 on Airbnbs.
How so?
Well, I got caught up in like this Airbnb thing, like super cash flow, right? So in 2021, I was an idiot. I may be still, but for sure in 2021, I made the biggest mistake in my real estate career with trying to chase passive income. So what I did was I was flipping houses all over Southern California. And then there was this small town called Joshua Tree, right? And everybody wanted to invest there, right? So before the market started to take off, I was buying houses in Joshua Tree for like $75K and then flipping them for like $150 to $160.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, these are cheap, safe flips. It was like 2 hours away from where I lived. So it was easy, right? And then I met Tony from Bigger Pockets and some other like Raw Built from Bigger Pockets and all these people. And they were doing Airbnbs there, right?
Yeah.
So then I start buying.
They were doing them in Joshua Tree?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
That's their, his tiny house, Robuilt's tiny house is in Joshua Tree. So they're just like.
Don't call him Robuilt. He'll get mad.
Raw built. So I found a property and then I was like, okay, I'm going to try Airbnb. So I did it.
Yeah.
The problem was I didn't realize Airbnb was so much work.
Yeah.
So I thought I just fix it up and then I was expecting my wife to furnish it and she just bailed on the job. It took us 6 months to furnish it. I furnished it at the end of it. I'm literally like buying stuff on Amazon.
Why didn't you just hire somebody to furnish it?
Because I just
You're being an idiot.
Yeah, I was being an idiot. That's what I said. And a lot of people listening to this can relate because they're like, I'll do it. Like, I'll paint the house. I'll
Then you had 6 months of mortgages that cost you more.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but then I finally get this one house listed that I bought for $150K and it cash flowed, right?
Yeah.
So then what did I do? Dude, if I get 20 of these that make me $2K a month, that's like $500,000 a year net. Yep. I'll never have to work again.
Yep.
So I start buying a bunch of Airbnbs like back to back to back. Like I bought like 7, like without getting them listed. So I bought 7. And then of course in 2022, the market turned.
Yeah. Long
story short, at the end of 2021 in December, I bought 4 properties at market value around 400 to 350K fixer-uppers in Joshua Tree. Each.
Yep.
Yeah, so 400, 350, 375. Like the week before the end of the year, because I wanted to do a cost segregation on those properties.
Yeah.
The market turned, so those houses that were worth 450, not fixed up, are now worth 300 fixed up. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I lost $200,000 on one property because I bought it for $425, ended up selling it for $325 after I fixed it up and after it sat vacant for a year and a half.
Oh, geez.
Because the market just completely turned. And then I had to pay a $25,000 prepayment penalty. So I just got my ass kicked in Joshua Tree. So shout out to Joshua Tree for almost robbing me. Yeah, no love for Joshua Tree. But anyways, I made that huge mistake because I was chasing passive income.
Yeah. And I mean, granted, right? A lot of things happened on why, people listening would be like, well, dude, you mismanaged it. That's why I didn't cash flow, right?
You could say that, but then it's the same thing with like, I heard Pace Morby had 30 Airbnbs in Atlanta, Georgia, and then the regulations changed. And then guess what? Like, you're out.
Your whole business gets screwed. Yeah.
We've had students that they're like, oh, I'm going to do this house hacking, whatever, rent by the room bull crap. And then the city comes in and says, hey, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So it's like mismanagement. Also, just things happen where things don't work anymore.
Yeah. So, I mean, Airbnb is a very difficult one to bank your business on, as we're talking about, because so I had a different experience, right? I went to Big Bear, which isn't far from Joshua Tree, right?
Yeah.
Like, how far are they?
Probably like an hour.
Yeah. So I was super early to that game, way before everyone else.
Yeah.
And I did make millions on it. And I did cash flow, and it performed really well.
Yeah.
But I don't know that buying one today will do the same. I bought them 7 years ago.
Yeah. And so Big Bear, they just had fires and stuff like that. So hopefully your properties are okay. But now
I haven't heard otherwise. So that's good.
That's great. But someone trying to buy a property there right now, guess what they're going to pay for homeowners insurance?
Oh, crazy.
It's impossible. So,
also too. So, and I might've been part of this, but when I first bought, there was, the slight restrictions with Airbnb was new.
Yeah.
This was 2017.
Yeah.
Today, there's heavy restrictions.
Yeah.
And an investor can only own one.
Yeah.
So you can't even build a scalable model out there.
Yeah. The whole county of San Bernardino, where Joshua Tree is, you're only allowed to have two. And then some cities could have even more regulations.
That's Big Bear, because Big Bear's in San Bernardino.
Yeah, it's in San Bernardino, but Big Bear is more strict than the county.
Yep.
So it's just like it's mismanagement, but it's also just things
more
change.
Regulations, things change. The market changes, regulation changes, all these things. So if you're not planning to cash flow on your rental from just pure long-term rental, and you need all these shenanigans to try and make it cash flow, inevitably those things will change.
Yeah.
But my point with all this is back to this method. Like, I've been in this business now over 15 years in real estate, 10 years investing. I've done every bad investment you could do. I've made a lot of great investments along the way. And it's become clear to me that people just don't even know what cash flow is. Mm-hmm. Because if I was to say, hey, Brian, what do you think of when you think of cash flow? What would you say?
I would say I would think of passive income. So income that's coming in monthly that I don't have to work for.
Okay. And then you would say, in real estate, how would you think of that?
Well,
as a normal person. No, not now.
Yeah. Now I would say it doesn't exist. But as a normal person, I would think, you just buy rental properties and then you make the difference. Make $200.
Make $500.
Yeah. Or you buy them in Ohio and you make $400.
Yeah, and then you go buy 50 of them.
Yeah.
Whatever, right?
And you retire.
Okay. So let's just say that that's even doable, right? Let's just say there are properties that, truly cash flow, $500.
Yeah.
All right. And I don't know, let's just say they're $300,000 properties in Midwest or something. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to go make $20,000 a month, you're going to need 40 of them.
Yeah.
So you need to buy 40 times $300,000. That's $12 million of real estate. Most of these people, they're not full-time real estate investors. They're just normal people who want to get cash flow. They're working a job, whatever. And you're like, all right, well, I need to put 20% down. Yeah. So, $12 million, 20% down, you better go figure out how to get 2.4 million minimum.
Yeah.
It's just, okay. And then how long does it take to save your down payments each year to do this? I mean, you just start to do the math and you're like, okay, maybe I could save 50 grand a year, 50 grand, that gets me to $1 million in 20 years.
Yeah.
So It's just not even a doable. And by the way, in 20 years from now, that property's worth more.
Yeah.
And you're going to need more to go do it.
Yeah.
So like, I just think this idea of getting cash flow that people have, and granted, right, rents will increase and stuff too. So I understand that.
Yeah.
But like, all in all, if you were even able to do it, which right from the get-go, it's already flawed.
Yeah.
That there's just not really properties anymore that do that in most major markets. But even if you were able to do it, it's going to take you decades to hit a number that's probably not even a lot of money 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Like 20 grand a month probably doesn't get you much 20 years from now.
Yeah. And that's if everything goes perfect.
That's if you actually could do it.
Yeah. And that's if all your tenants pay every single month and you have no vacancies. And I used to think like
No
that.
repairs.
Yeah, no repairs. I used to think like that. I'm like, well, I'm in real estate. I'll get good tenants. There's always like a 10 to 15% of my portfolio that is rather not paying or is vacant and is waiting for a new tenant. So there's just so much that goes into it, but I do think there's a new way to make cash flow, which I'm hoping you're going to share.
You know, we're 15 minutes in. I've just been hating on this other stuff. Well, you know what's funny is because you know all the Airbnb guys, right?
Yeah.
They're all like trying to figure out what's next
Yeah.
because it just doesn't work the way it used to.
Yeah. All the Airbnb guys make more money from education than they do on Airbnb. That's the truth.
But then everyone's going to say, well, all the flipping guys make more money on education than they do flipping.
That's not true. I've made just as much money flipping and wholesaling
Yeah.
as I have in education. I know your company makes
Yeah.
a couple $100,000.
I've made a lot of money. I've still to this point in my career made more real estate investing.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but with the Airbnb guys, not to throw shade on any of them because obviously they're great, but I don't know. We'll see in the long run where that ends up.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like this is actually a good case study. So our friend at Wealthy Investor, Ivan Tejeda,
Yeah.
is now doing, you know,
Flipping and wholesaling.
well, yeah, part of this new method.
Yeah.
And he already got like 4 deals in his first month.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So anyways, okay. Basically, my point with this is that the way we look at cash flow is based on like, you know, what our parents told us, what Rich Dad, Poor Dad told us 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like, that was the way
Yeah.
20 years ago, for sure. Mm-hmm. It's not the way today.
No.
And, you know, what does a normal person do to get cash flow? And if we define the word cash flow as, hey, I want to make money without me, the one directly producing that sale, that rent, that income, whatever, right? You still have to set up the business no matter what.
Yeah.
Because even if you were building this massive rental portfolio, you still got to acquire rentals. Like that takes effort. You still got to manage the managers.
Yeah.
Like, so it's never truly passive. It's just how passive. So what I propose is that, okay, well, looking at my last decade of real estate, I've had a lot of passive income and cash flow, but it never came from rentals, even though we've owned hundreds. It always came from my businesses. And you know this firsthand being in the business, like, you know, how many hours a week have I spent at Home Run Offer the last years?
I would say like 1 hour a week, maybe.
1 hour a week.
Yeah.
So like, if you spend 1 hour a week at a business that does millions over these years,
Yeah. Like you literally make $200,000 a month in passive income.
but it's not from rentals,
Yeah.
it's from flipping, wholesaling, novations, all that stuff. Right? So to me, I just kind of like reframe it where I'm like, well, passive income comes from anything that makes you money that you don't have to necessarily spend all your time at. So a business to me is the best way to get passive income. That's really what it comes down to. And that's why I think like things like buying businesses and laundromats and mailboxes. I've had all these people on my show. You know, I've had Cody Sanchez. I've had, you know, Lisa Sutton talking about mailboxes. I've had lots of different things. And granted, I just look at all of those things and they're cool, but dude, I'm not trying to manage laundromats. You know, like that's an actual business that requires a lot of things to go manage it. You know, I got to get washers and dryers and people and
financing.
staff and financing. I got to go buy the business. And then I look at, you know, these other things. I got to go buy a mailbox thing. I got to go buy whatever, right? And so I'm like, And then the other part about that is the upside is capped per location. Like the location of a business has a cap to whatever it is in most of these like more passive income trendy businesses. So I just started to think about it and I was like, man, what we're doing now with wholesaling has been the most passive and the least risk for me in my entire career, right? Because you just said earlier that flipping houses is also something that like people probably shouldn't just only focus on at this moment. And we've all been through the pros and cons of flipping. We've made millions flipping, but we've also lost a lot of money when the market turns.
Yeah.
And you know, your money gets tied up like flipping, and then you got contractors, you got to wait for it to sell in the market. Like there's all these things that go on with flipping. And for me, I've just realized like the more I've built my wholesale / novation operation, it has way less risk, it has more scale, and it's actually way more passive for me than ever before. And it just started to make me think like, well, what if you could just build, you know, that kind of business? You don't have to buy it. You don't have to go buy laundromats. You don't have to go, like, there's no inventory. You don't really need to hire many people. You could build a 7-figure operation with how many people?
Like 4.
I don't even think you need 4.
I think that's like a total team, like a TC, an acquisitions, a dispositions.
And then you.
And then me. Yeah. But I, right now, truly am trying to build a business that I'm not even in it.
Period.
Like that's my ultimate goal is not to make 7 figures at all costs. I want to make 7 figures with it running on its own.
Yep.
So that's what I'm focused on.
And it comes to the same conclusion that the best way for you to achieve your goal of getting 7 figures of cash flow is to build an automated wholesale novation business.
Yeah.
Right? I've come to the same conclusion.
Yeah.
And granted, my flipping business was also very passive.
Yeah.
Even when we were flipping 50 to 70 homes. I never went to the properties. I didn't have to deal with that crap. But the risk was so through the roof.
Yeah.
And the stress. And so I think that that's another thing when it comes to income and everything else is like, what about the stress of the asset that's producing income? Because let's say you have all these rentals that have mortgages and everything else, tenants that are producing passive income. And let's say it's working. And then you have like a business that produces passive income. Well, they carry different levels of stress. So it's like, if I have a business and my payroll's, you know, with 4 people, you know, it's 10, 20 grand, right? And then our marketing is, let's just say 10, 20 grand also, right? Like I'm into this business 30 grand a month. Like that's my risk. But then I have this other bit, you know, I have all these rentals that I have millions and millions of dollars of debt on. And I pay lots more than that. And because if I'm making 20 grand a month in cash flow, that means I must be bringing in 50 grand a month
or more,
yeah. You know, whatever the case is. Right. And so I'm paying mortgages over 40 grand or 50 grand and all that stuff. And, you know, if those tenants stop paying, if we get a big repair, all those things happen. And you just start to think about it and you're like, well, which one has more stress? You know, owning the 30 rentals or having the 3-4 employees?
Yeah.
I think this is way less stress.
100%.
And way less risk, way less headache. And you have more liquidity.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem too. It's like we could have all this equity in rentals and stuff, but it's hard to get it right away.
The accounting and all that stuff is like complex. The taxes
Selling
are
it.
way complex. That's another reason that I like wholesaling is because like if I get a 20K paycheck, I know I made 20K. With a flip, it's like, okay, well, now I got to go back and see what did I wire for the deposit? What was the down payment? What did I pay in rehab? How long did I hold it? What were all the utilities? What are like supplemental tax bills you get 3 months later when the property gets reassessed? Like, and then what did I pay my salesperson? Like, it's way more accounting and way more complex than a 20K assignment fee.
Right. And it's just that they're actual assets that just deteriorate, have, you know, all these things that happen, right? So we call CapEx for rentals. Because a lot of people are like, why don't you just keep rentals forever? And it's like, well, there's a reason CapEx exists. Like even if I fully renovate this property in Joshua Tree or Big Bear, my rentals, I've had them now for 5 to 7 years. Dude, they're beat.
Yeah.
Like if I can sell them as is right now, but like they're not worth like full ARV.
Yeah.
Like these are worn in houses from 7 years of hardcore renting, dude. So like CapEx is a real thing with rentals. Like it's not like, cool, we renovated it once and it's good, and then I got knick-knack repair. No, it's like, no, you're gonna have to fully renovate it again, probably a decade later, if you want to just keep holding it and redo it all again, because especially if you're doing Airbnb, the wear and tear is significant compared to a long-term rental.
Yeah.
But anyways, long story short, so I started to think about this idea because I was like, the most cash flow I've ever made was from my wholesaling business. It actually wasn't from education, because in education, as you know, dude, bro, I got to like make content. I got to speak on stages. I got to go coach. I've got to go and film ads.
Yeah.
Dude, I spent way more time in education than I did at flipping houses. So truly, the wholesale business has been the most passive thing that I've had, because it's not relying on me. You know, wealthy investors relying on me.
Yeah.
I got to do all these things for it to succeed. Now, granted, I love it, but I'm just saying, like, if I'm trying to build something that's the most passive today in real estate, I am building a wholesaling business. And I'm doing it in a different way, though, because I think the reason people don't think wholesaling can be passive is because they think they're doing it themselves. They think they got to go make all the cold calls. They got to talk to 1 million wholesalers and agents. And they got to go grind and hit the pavement, and then, you know, handle construction if they're going to flip some, and then raise money. Like, yeah, when you factor in all those things, it is a very active business. But I think it's actually easier today than ever.
Yeah. I think it starts with mindset, because I remember when I first met you, I was like, I have to talk to the sellers. I can't have someone else talk to them because they're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And you were like, no, dude, you could do it. I was like, no, you just don't understand. California is different. California, you have to talk to the sellers. But it took me like years to be like, you know what? The seller doesn't care. The seller doesn't. I'm not some special guy that the seller needs. They'll talk to any salesperson that's willing to offer them what they want. They'll work with them.
They don't care. You can be a hobo.
Yeah. And then I have to be just more trusting to allow my salespeople to do what, to call the leads. Yeah. And just like, you know, train them, talk to them. But once they're going, I don't have to sit there and babysit. Yeah. So that was like a hard transition for me. This year is the very first time ever I've had this mindset of like, I refuse to just grind it out to put in the work myself. I just don't want to do it. Yeah. It's not sustainable. And I know there's a better way because I've seen it already with your business. Like you haven't been involved in your business for years. Yeah. Whenever you want to be. Yeah. But like, I don't want to grind it out. Yeah. And I think we've gotten away. Like I just never, like to me, that's been happening since 2020. But like, I just never realized that actually was the key to all of this. It's taken hindsight to realize that I've had many companies come and go over the years, but that one has just always continued producing for years. And, you know, like I said, we've had, you know, properties that lost money on flips, but guess what? It was the wholesales and the novations that were able to get through that storm and just keep producing passive income, really, for me as the business owner. Now, granted, the business takes a lot of people working and, you know, on those calls with those sellers, dispoing deals, putting out fires, but I pay people to do it. And so I think that that's where I just had this epiphany. I was like, well, dude, if I wanted cash flow in real estate today, right now, with what we know in this environment, in this market, dude, I'm building the most automated wholesale operation that I can. So what are some of the things that I used to do that weren't automated that now are? Well, number one, we used to only be able to do Vegas because we would always go on in-person appointments, everything else. Now we close everything over the phone, typically in one call. You know, we've never had this before where the majority of our leads are getting locked up within the first 24 hours. It's crazy. That was never a thing. So we've automated our sales process. We've also automated dispo because we do things like novation. So we don't have to like go search high and dry for all these buyers. When we can go list it on the open market as a deal, like dispo's pretty automated at that point. We don't have construction anymore. Yeah. So I don't have to handle all these projects and everything else. We don't have to raise capital anymore. So now I'm not constrained by how many deals I can do because whether or not I have enough money.
And then also too, now there's basically no risk anymore because I don't have $20 million of hard money and private money on the street working. And if the market turns, I get screwed and lose millions, which has happened to me.
Yeah.
And like, so I look at my model now and I'm like, dude, the leads come in automated because of our marketing efforts. My sales team has an easier time selling now because they just do it over the phone really fast. Dispo has an easier time because we're doing novations. And even when we can't do an innovation, we have an investor lift, which automates that process for finding off-market buyers. And then the money comes in way quicker than we were flipping because we're not waiting 6 months to get paid. I mean, we get paid in 30 to 60 days on all these deals. And I'm just like, dude, that is like an ATM.
Yeah.
Like it just makes money. And we close deals all over the country now. We're not just limited to Vegas.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen the business in this like new light before, that like the business is the asset.
Yeah.
And we know that, right? Like, you know, people buy and sell businesses, but we don't, wholesalers and flippers don't ever think of their business as an asset because most aren't worth anything.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you built your business, you know, the way I built my business and everything else, and it's going to make all this money, well, you have an asset that's like very valuable, especially if you don't have to do anything.
Yeah. And I think it starts with like mindset, because even I know people listening to this, and I only believe it because I've seen it firsthand being here at the office.
Yeah.
But people are going to think, well, like, dude, that's not going to work. First, they're going to be like, that's not going to work in Cleveland or wherever they're at. That's always like,
You're not special.
Yeah. It's always like,
I tell that
I'm in the toughest market.
No, you're not.
Yeah, always, no matter what. That's the first thing they say.
But I want people to know I am in the toughest market.
But
statistically.
Yeah, statistically, Vegas is hard. So I've done deals in California and I've done deals in Vegas. Vegas is harder than California.
It is.
But they're going to think it doesn't work in their market.
Yeah.
They're going to think like, well, I have to, same mindset, I have to grind it out, because we know some really smart entrepreneurs that are in the flipping and wholesaling space, and they are still on these appointments, and they are still doing the sales calls, and they are still doing all these things, and they make millions of dollars doing it, and that's great, but they're gonna have the mindset that they have to do it, that they're not gonna believe the passive part.
Yeah. Well, so I think that this is all part of it, right? So I actually created we're gonna hold a workshop teaching all of it. So for those of you guys who want to attend, I think the domain is cashflow20.com. So the number 2 and then the letter O, cashflow20.com. But yeah, basically I'm going to teach for 3 days straight on how to like build it to be automated. Because there's one thing to teach someone how to wholesale, which we've taught thousands of students over the years, right? And so we can teach people the concepts of how to, you know, comp properties, find buyers, raise money, you know, market. But it's all very manual. You have to do it,
Yeah.
you know, to start out. And I still think there's a lot of value in doing it yourself, definitely starting out.
Yeah.
Because that's just how you learn, right? But there comes a time when you can make the switch into really making it automated. And I think what you're describing is people who haven't made that last gear.
Yeah.
They're still stuck in this gear of, hey, like the business makes money. I close deals. Like it's all good. Like I want to do that. But then there will come a point like it came with you where you're like, dude, I've been doing this now for
8 years.
8 years. Like I'm good.
Yeah.
But the first 8 years, you're like, I'll grind it.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I'm willing to pay.
Yeah. But at some point you decide that enough is enough. And unfortunately, most people just stop doing the business.
Exactly.
Because they just don't know how to reach the third gear.
Yeah.
And so I think like the 3 gears are number 1, mindset, like you said. If you don't even believe you can do it, you don't believe it's possible, you believe your market has too much, you believe the industry, the market, like whatever, then it doesn't even matter what else we say.
Yeah.
So a lot of people really need to have mindset driven in. And I hated doing, you know this, I hated doing master classes and workshops talking for hours about mindset.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's like fluff.
Yeah.
But I've realized that that fluff is needed. People need to switch their mindset. Because I already know, but it's only from years of doing it.
Yeah.
Other people, you're going to have to help them reshift their mind in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
So I think like the first thing that we'll cover in this workshop is mindset and building like a wealthy foundation, like thinking like how wealthy people think. Wealthy people don't trade time for money. Yeah. Wealthy people build machines that make them money. And so, you know, really getting into those things and learning how to let go, learning how to leverage, learning how to invest properly, both into yourself, into your business. Like, you know, one of the things I'm going to talk about is like, bro, I don't want you looking at a stock, a rental, crypto, or anything if you haven't put any money into your own business or yourself.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
Like, you are the asset.
Yeah.
It starts with you as the asset. If you suck, you know nothing, your mindset sucks, you have no drive, well, guess what? No asset you buy is going to save you. I don't care if you invest your money with me and I pay you friggin' 10%, 12%. Like,
Yep.
it's irrelevant. You're still going to be broke.
I just had this conversation with actually two people. So Justin, the producer here.
Yep.
And then Omar Altakori.
Yep.
One of them hit me up. He was like, hey, dude, I got 40K. You know, what should I invest in? And I was just like, in nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, honestly, even if I pay you 20% on that 40K annually, the risk is, you know, obviously I'm going to pay them back no matter what, but
There's risk.
there's a risk for sure, right? So you could lose that 40K for that whatever,
You could lose it all.
couple $100 a month that you're going to get. And it's just, you could do more investing in yourself than you can making a couple $100 a month passively.
Yeah, even if you paid him 20%, that'd be $8,000 for the year.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure both of them have the capability to make way more than $8,000
Yeah.
if they just so choose.
They can make $8,000 a month if they just
Yeah.
set up some sort of business or did a new strategy.
But it takes
of their own.
mindset. It takes all of
Yeah.
that, right? So that's my point, right? And people just don't know that. So I think it's important to talk about mindset, and we can go back to mindset because I do want to talk about it, even though I think it's fluff, it's necessary.
Yeah.
But then the second one is, okay, now that you're in the right state of mind, like, okay, I'm not going to invest in a stock.
Yeah.
I'm not going to invest in a rental. I am going to invest in myself and my business. Okay, well, now let's build the business. So, you know, day 2 is just going to be about building this cash flow machine. Like, we need to build a machine that we can reliably use where I have one input of I put cash in it and it spits more cash out of it. That's what a cash flow machine does. Because no machine functions without fuel.
Yeah.
You know, you need electricity, you need oil, you need fuel. The fuel of every business is money.
Yeah.
And so we need money in order to buy leads, to do marketing, to hire staff, to do everything. And if the machine's built properly, the more money we put into it, more and more money comes out of it.
Yeah.
And so people just got to understand like a business is a machine. Because most people think of a business as a job,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, all right, Brian, we're going to build your wholesale business. And you're like, okay, so I have to cold call. I have to do this. I have to do that.
Yeah.
You know, you're thinking of it like a job, which for most people, solopreneurs, it does start off that way. But you got to have the mindset that I'm only doing this job for right now.
For the startup.
Yes. And I'm doing that with the intent that I'm going to replace myself in this job, hire someone else to do it once I know how to do it, and then keep building it that way.
That's where most people fail on the second part. And I was
Yeah.
actually thinking about this the other day because I was doing a transaction in Cali Mesa, California. And unfortunately, the realtor had a heart attack like during the transaction.
Wow.
Yeah. And he called me while he was at the hospital. He's like, hey, like just, you know, trying to push the transaction forward. And I was like, dude, like, I know what I'm doing. Just don't even worry about it. Just rest. I'll make sure we close it. Like, just don't call me again. Just rest.
Yeah.
Do whatever you got to do. And then I started thinking about it that like, there's people that are in real estate for 10, 20, 30 years. And at the end of it, what do they have?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Like it stops because they stopped working.
Exactly. So
Realtors are really guilty of this.
yeah, realtors are guilty of it. Wholesalers,
wholesalers
yeah,
too.
wholesalers, flippers,
They're all
like,
guilty.
Exactly. They all just like once they stop, it stops. And that's why for me, and I know for you, I need a business that if I take the day off, it doesn't just stop.
Yeah.
It has to keep going. There has to be someone putting in effort besides me.
Yeah. And that's what made me even think about this idea of Cashflow 2.0 was because we were at Bandon Dunes last week at the golf trip. And so we had, 5 people that paid to go on that trip. I brought Javi and Justin and Monty. And it's funny, right? So for those who don't know, Justin's my producer. Javi's my COO across all our companies. And Monty is the COO at Home Run Offer, a house flipping company. So I'm bringing like my 3 top guys with me on this trip. And we're going to go take, all these days off from work.
Yeah.
And, I'm just talking to all the attendees. We're having a great time golfing, doing mastermind. It is like the best trip ever. And we're just talking about basically this problem of they are all in that boat where they're making great money. Obviously, they paid 10 grand to go on this trip, plus travel and all that. They took time away from their bit, and they're like, dude, we just can't like get away from us having to do everything. And I pulled up Slack, and I was like, let's see what my team did. Not as like to be a dick, but just like, I'm going to show you what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then I just pulled it up. I was like, these are all the sales today, on education. These are all the lead kitchen sales. These are all the deals that Home Run Offer did, which by the way, their leader's not even here or not even there.
Yeah.
He's here too.
Yeah.
And they locked up 4 deals while we've been golfing. They assigned 2 of them. And it's like, they're like, holy crap, that's what we need.
Yeah.
And that's when the light switch turned on for me, where we've been teaching people how to scale and build businesses for a long time, but it never occurred to me to really emphasize this aspect of it.
Yeah.
That it's not even about how much money you make. Like the 7 figures is nice.
Yeah.
But you would probably still be happy if you could go make $500,000, but you did nothing.
100%.
Right?
Maybe even happier.
Yeah. If like 7 figures, you grinding 50 hours a week versus $1 million, no grind.
Yeah.
I'm sure you would probably just take the $1 million.
100%.
It's a better business. You have free time to go do other things, which are probably going to make you money too.
Yeah.
It's not like you'll stop working.
Yeah.
Right?
I might for a little bit, but yeah.
Go on an RV trip.
Yeah. I want to freaking golf and chill my kids and not
join the tour.
Yeah. Not have to think about, I got to go to the office.
Yeah.
Like I've thought about this for a lot of years. Like I wonder, who made me think of this? What's his name? Shane?
Sigsby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you watch his Instagram,
he's always everywhere.
He's golfing, he's fishing for months. He's like living a lifestyle of like just living. And I thought about like, what if I didn't have to work? Like truly didn't have to work, what would I do?
Yeah.
I always thought like, I would still work. But the older that I'm getting, I'm like, well, maybe I would just
we're in a different season of life.
Exactly.
Our kids are getting older.
Yeah.
It's like we want to spend time with them. We want to do these things. And so, it just depends on your mentality. If you're brand new in the business and you're young, it's like, all right, you're probably like, honestly, I'd be kind of concerned if you were young and you didn't want to work. I'd be like, you're probably just lazy.
Yeah.
Right. But, you're in your 30s, 40s. You get it. You're like, bro, like I've been grinding my whole life to provide.
Exactly.
But
even in your 20s, or in the beginning of your career, you should want, to work, but you cannot just even allow yourself to get stuck there for more than a year.
I think they should want to work, but grow.
Yeah.
And the only way you grow is the same way that we're talking about.
Yeah.
You need to automate things. You got to learn how to hire properly. You got to have systems. Like it's still the same thing. It's just once you do that, what do you choose to do after?
Yeah.
Do you choose to scale it even more and get more people and keep growing it? Do you choose to start a new business? Do you choose to take time off and enjoy life? Like it just basically, the point is when you build this machine, you now have choice about what's next. And so for me, when I built my wholesale house flip machine, my choice was I'm going to get on social media. I'm going to build an education company. I'm going to build these other businesses. That was the choice I made. I didn't want to go chill and do nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
You want to do ministry.
Yeah. I want to do ministry. Right. So anyways, I think like stage 1 becomes getting people in the right mindset. Stage 2 comes with building the machine. And then stage 3 is automating it all. Right. Because most people who are successful that we know are in stage 2 still.
Yeah.
They're not in stage 3. And you yourself just said you're still in stage 2.
Yep.
So to get to stage 3, it becomes man, we got to figure out how do we automate each thing that we can. So like, for example, really wholesaling's not that difficult conceptually. I mean, there's 3 components. There's marketing, there's sales, and there's dispo.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, marketing, we can automate, right? Depending on your budget. So marketing can be automated by, if you got a big budget, you can do lead kitchen.
Yeah.
And you can get leads automated to you. You got a small budget, you can do, cold call and text, and you can get VAs, and they can do that for you. You can do agent outreach if you want to build it out automated. Might be a little bit harder, but long story short, you can automate marketing if you do it right. You don't have to be the one making all the calls. You don't have to be the one setting up your ads and like managing all this stuff. So then, okay, what else is there? Well, dispo and sales are basically the same. They're just sales positions. One person's trying to acquire the deal. One person is trying to sell the deal. Well, a lot of times that person could be the same person, or you could have 2 different people. But, I fully believe that you could build a $500,000 to $1 million business with 1 sales guy and 1 dispo guy. That's it.
Yeah.
Like my sales guy, Michael, will close $1 million plus worth of wholesale fees.
Yeah.
By himself. And so will my dispo.
Yeah.
So clearly I know, like, you could do it 1-to-1.
Yeah. And you just might need a TC to just help make sure the acquisition guy is not sitting here doing a bunch of paperwork and facilitating the sale, and the dispo person can focus on finding the buyer, and someone's in the middle. Yeah,
you would have a TC, and then you, as the business owner, would kind of be overseeing everything.
Yeah.
Making sure that the deals are going through, checking in on them, everything. But that's at scale.
Yeah, or you just hire a manager.
Right.
Justin,
and that's what I did.
Justin, you're wrong.
Yeah.
That he's my COO.
He's your manager.
He's the manager. He's doing the sales meetings. He's making sure everything's happening. He's like all that stuff because I just don't want to do it.
Exactly.
So, and then you could pay a TC per transaction, $200 to $500.
Yeah.
So that's not even a full-time employee.
That's why I didn't even consider them an employee. Like that's part of my automation.
Yeah.
TC's automated.
Yeah.
Marketing is automated. Really what we're talking about here is just managing some salespeople.
Yeah.
That's literally the one step away from having a fully automated wholesale business.
Yeah.
Because if marketing's done for you and you know that that marketing source is good, which we know my stuff is good.
Yeah.
And then you have just sales, which, that's something you're going to have to work on. And that's going to be a thing that's going to dictate how far the business actually goes. But then TC becomes automated. You can go outsource that company very easily.
Yep.
And then, in time, you could go hire a manager to manage your salespeople.
And you can do it right away, honestly. You pay them a percentage.
You could because you understand the business. But I'm
Yeah.
saying for somebody who doesn't.
Yeah. If someone doesn't understand the business,
they're going to have to do it.
Yeah.
But, for somebody who's been in stage 2, making hundreds of thousands a year or whatever, they absolutely could.
Yeah.
So, that's part of it. And there's a lot that goes into how to actually do those things, how to build out your marketing to be automated, how to hire and make these guys automated and
train them,
and all those things, how to dispo in an automated way.
Yeah.
How to even do the simple things of what is the sales process? How do you know if you do innovation? These are the things that stop people from getting started.
Yeah.
Because they're still even though we glossed over it at a big picture, it's all these little details that trip people up.
Yeah.
What happens if I have to cancel?
Yeah.
And it's it's just there's a lot of details that need to be covered.
Yeah. Documents on innovations and how to list them and what price to list them at, how to negotiate, how long are the due diligence periods. There's a bunch of small details that people need to learn.
So anyways, we're going to discuss all that on this workshop. So no matter when you watch this, I think probably replays will be available on the site if you missed it.
Yeah.
If you didn't miss it, then you'll be able to catch it live and ask questions and everything else. So
it'll probably be in the link of the
cashflow20.com.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was the epiphany to me is dude, it's easier than ever now to build a wholesale business with all the tools available. Because dude, when I first taught you back in 2018, these tools weren't available.
Yeah, no.
I'm all right, guys, here's how you need to set up your MLS auto searches. here's some other cold calling things we do. We got to go find these guys on like Upwork and then you're going to have to go manage those VAs and make sure they call and hit their stuff. So like all this marketing stuff was already really hard.
Yeah.
Now that's automated. You don't even need to worry about lead flow. Then it became sales and it's like, all right, well, now we just have so many data points of all these transactions to know the exact sales process that works for these exact leads. Because as you know, every lead has a different sales process. Somebody who cold calls is very different than somebody who fills out a Facebook ad or a PPC.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Or a realtor or a wholesaler.
Yeah.
However.
And then all these tools for Dispo were not, like there was no Novations 7-8 years ago.
Or Investor Lift.
There was no Investor Lift. There was none of these things that now make that part easy. So really, when it comes down to it, it's just a sales team. That's all that's stopping people from once they have the rest of those things that we're talking about. It's just like really the only focus then becomes your sales team.
Yeah. Sales team and leadership.
That's it.
Yeah. You have to be able to understand that you need to recruit, and then you have to recruit and then keep these people and then train them and then give them a good place to work.
Well, and the other thing is I think about how easy that is compared to running a laundromat.
Yeah.
Bro, if I got to run a laundromat, there's so much crap that needs to be done. Way more stuff and way less upside.
Yeah.
Like your laundromat is literally capped to full capacity of if the washers and dryers were fully running at all, then you got to go get another location. And
another thing too. So right now I'm actually looking at buying a property management company, right? Okay. So I was analyzing a property management company and I was like, all right, looking at the numbers, and then I have to get a loan for $350,000. Right. And to some people that makes a lot of sense. Like, okay, get a loan to buy a business for $350,000.
Yeah.
But if you tell them, hey, pay $15,000 and you could start a business, they're like, no. But they'll go out and get a loan for hundreds of thousands of dollars that it's going to take them 10 years to pay back. Well, they'll do that.
Yeah.
But they won't pay $15K to start a business from scratch.
Well, also too, this is the crazier part about what we're even talking about, right? You could start the business from scratch. All of us could start this wholesaling business tomorrow.
Yeah.
With no office.
Yeah.
Like literally from your house, virtually. You could pick any market you want to be in.
Yeah.
Right. And like you still close all your deals in Cali. You're right here. Right.
Yeah.
So not only is the startup cost significantly less, but the monthly overhead is significantly less. It's like, dude, if you're just starting out, you could legit run like an automated wholesale business where you're going to start as the sales guy, but you could automate your marketing and all these things. You could do it for $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
And it's like, what other business you starting for $2,000 a month that could go make you $20,000 this month? Like net, because there's no cost of goods for the product. Because there are people who have different businesses like, oh, we did $50,000 in revenue. But yeah, the product you sell cost $40,000.
Yeah.
You made 10 minus now all the things. It's like, no, we're talking about when you make a $20,000 wholesale fee, there's nothing else to it. You made $20,000. And your overhead was $2,000 for everything. That was your marketing. That was your softwares, your education. Like literally people could have the education, the softwares, and the leads for $2,000 a month. What else could you do?
I don't know of anything else.
I don't know of anything else either. Yeah. Like in or out of real estate. Like I don't know anything that's like that. And the last piece of this too that made me really think about it was, I got burned flipping so many houses in 2022 when they raised rates. And so, I lost millions liquidating all those deals, and, all my investors got paid back, but I had to freaking cough it all up.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that again.
Yeah. So
when you're flipping a house, I still flip. So like, don't get me wrong. We'll still take down deals. We probably got like 8 flips going on right now, but your risk is literally all the millions you have on the flip, because you are liable for them if it goes south. Yeah. You're going to have a foreclosure, your private investors, whatever, right? Yeah. Like you're liable. You're personally guaranteeing it. Now, granted, if you lose millions, most people don't have that. So they're going to just BK and it's all good. It's not all good, but like that's what will happen. But when you're wholesaling, your risk, like I just said, is $2,000 a month, 10 grand a month. It's not millions.
Yeah.
It's literally marketing. And I think people don't get that because they're like, well,
What if I lose 5K?
I'm like, bro, if you buy the house, you could lose 500K.
Yeah, I know. You could lose everything you put in plus more
Damages.
It's like shorting stocks.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how shorting stocks works,
but it's like it.
But it's like it. But I know you could lose more than what you invest in.
Yeah.
So I could put a down payment. I could raise 40K put into it.
Yeah.
And the house could sell for less.
Yeah.
And I have to wire money, which I have done.
I've done it.
Where I've lost all the money that was in there, all the private money that was in there. And I had to wire money to close.
Yep.
And I had to wire the
private
lender
money back.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's not just, you could lose all your money. You could lose all your money plus
way more. And that's the point, is that people don't think about it that way though, because they're like, dude, I want to get started with no money. So I want to buy a deal, I'll raise capital and all this stuff. It's like, well, truly, yeah, you are starting with no money of your own in that deal, but you're still on the hook for all that money that you started with.
Yeah.
Right? And you're on the hook for hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, if you have like all these deals. Whereas with wholesaling and this marketing, you're on the hook for the marketing you spent. And if you don't get a deal, you lost 10 grand.
Yeah.
You'll survive.
Yeah. But you still have, like, when you buy data and all this crap, it's still valuable.
Yeah, you still own the data.
Yeah. You could remarket it. Like, sell the data. I've had people sell me their data that they've bought in and gotten back some of their money. So it's like...
Well, that's one of our guarantees. I forgot to mention this. Like, that's one of our guarantees with Lead Kitchen.
Yeah.
Where if they quit because they just suck at getting deals...
Yeah.
Right? We will have them send us all their leads if they want.
Yeah. And I don't even know if it's legal to sell data. After I just said that, I don't even know if I could legally buy data from people, but I may have done that. Supposedly. Maybe.
Allegedly, I've heard
of people doing it.
In this office.
Yeah. And I'm not saying who. But yeah. But anyways,
yeah,
I think it's great.
But, but like with Lead Kitchen, to alleviate that fear, I said, hey guys, if the leads don't work for you, send them to us. And our team, who we know can close, will go out and try to close them, and we'll chop it 50-50.
Yeah. So you can make your
money we've back. Literally done that.
Yeah.
And people have made their money back, and they're like, and then it makes them think like,
yeah,
maybe I should probably stay with it because my team just sucks.
Yeah.
I need to get better at, and that's my point, right? You just have to get better at sales. That's all it ends up becoming in this business. The risk is simply just marketing budget. And that's it. Because most sales guys, what are they? They're commission only.
Yeah.
So you don't even really have salary risk. You can get a TC that's commission only. You can get sales guys that are commission only.
You get Dispo's commission only.
Dispo that's commission only. So all you have to do is front marketing and education.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So sales, I think, is actually what is the skill that has made me millions and millions and millions of dollars. And I didn't even know I was a good salesperson when I first started.
Yeah.
So when I first started in real estate, the only experience I had was working at restaurants and working at movie theaters. So I used to work at Pizza Hut and like Little Caesars and then the movie theaters. And then I got into sales. And I remember my first seller appointment I went on, I was just sitting in front of a homeowner and I didn't even know what the contract said, but I just knew my goal was to have them sign it. So I was just sitting there like trying to convince them to list their house with me. And I remember I didn't get that first one, but I remember that I fell in love with sales right after that. Cause I was like, oh, this is great. Like I was this close to making like $4,000. And then the next, appointment I went on, then I got it, but it didn't sell. And then I had like a bunch of like unsellable listings. And then I started getting sellable listings. And then I really fell in love with sales. And then that's like what snowballed into all this success. And I think like the success I had as a realtor snowballed into the success I had as a wholesaler, that snowballed the success I had as a info person, education person. So I think sales can like change your life. It could help you find a wife. It can help you get better deals on your cars and
raise
everything
money.
else. Yeah, it helps you get employees. It helps your relationships with your friends. So I think sales is like one of the most underrated things that a person can learn.
Yeah. And I think it's important that people just have that mindset So it's like if we're reshifting people's mindset of what cash flow is,
Yeah.
and then we're reshifting what their mindset is of sales, because most people wouldn't think like, oh, I'm not good at sales. Like, well, you got your wife to marry you.
Yeah.
You figured something out.
Yeah. You got to sell your kids to do what's right.
Yeah.
You have to, have you ever read the book, Sell or Be Sold by Grant Cardone?
Long time ago.
Yeah. That was the first book that I read that I was like, oh, wow. Like I never thought about every human interaction you have is them trying to sell you on their ideas or you trying to sell them on your ideas. Yeah. I've never, and it's still, even today, like when me and you sometimes have like, conversations on what we should do with the businesses, or you're trying to sell me on an idea, or I'm trying to sell you on an idea. Like it's real.
Yeah.
And people need to know that you have to be good at sales in order to be successful.
Yeah. One thing I'll add about sales is, I mean, obviously I've done so many episodes about sales with some of the best guys. And so there's just different like sales techniques and things you can do to become better. But the thing that supersedes sales always is offer. So if your offer is so good, this is every business, you know, that makes selling way easier because you truly are giving them the best offer.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, if I'm offering everyone the opportunity to build this Cashflow 2.0 machine, I truly believe it is better than Airbnb. I believe it's better than a laundromat. I believe it's better than flipping houses. I believe it's better than everything available. I literally cannot find anything I would start over today. And I'm literally doing it right now, making the most money I've ever made in house flipping and wholesaling. So because I believe the offer so much, it makes selling it so much easier.
Yeah.
And the same is true like if you're talking to a homeowner, right? If you can do things like Novation, where it truly is the best offer for them, because they don't want to deal with realtors, they don't want to deal with any of that stuff, but they don't want lowball offers from wholesalers. If you could do innovation, you hit everything they're looking for. You give them the price they want, you give them the convenience they want. I don't need to be a genius salesperson to get somebody to accept something that they telling me they want.
Yeah. Yeah. You just have to know how to offer it to them.
Yeah.
And then maybe a little bit of negotiations on like getting them down on price.
A little bit.
Or getting
but
them.
we're not getting someone down from 400,000 to 320.
Yeah. Or lower. 'Cause
Right.
for a wholesale fee, you need like below 300.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, so how does someone start to get in the mindset of being a great salesperson?
Well, I think it comes down to, once again, if what you're selling is something that you really believe is going to impact and benefit that person, you'll speak with conviction. So I think it first starts with having belief in whatever it is you're trying to sell. So if I'm trying to sell you the idea, and I'm like, Brian, I think that we should be doing X, Y, Z. I should have conviction in what I'm selling. I think the problem is most people suck at sales because they don't believe it's the best thing.
Yeah.
They're like,
They have doubts.
yeah, I don't know. This lowball offer kind of sucks for you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that comes through in how they sell. You know, if I'm selling one of our programs and I just don't think it's good, that doubt is going to come through.
Yeah.
But if I've seen all these students' lives change, if my own business uses these things right now, I know it works.
Yeah.
That's just going to come through with how I sell.
Yeah. So
Belief.
great sales starts with belief.
If it starts first with belief in yourself and the thing you are selling. I think the next thing that great sales comes with is, you know, really understanding their problems. So, you know, you can't really diagnose their like what the solution is until you hear their problems and what it is they want, what it is they're struggling with.
Yeah.
So, you know, you kind of have to go into discovery and then the last stage is going into, you know, prescribing.
Yeah.
This is the answer to what you're saying is your problems.
Yeah. And I think like what most real estate salespeople make a mistake is when they're in that discovery phase, the seller could say, yeah, I'm facing foreclosure. And they're like, okay, great. Will you take $300,000?
Yeah.
That's not good
This will
enough.
solve your problem.
Yeah,
You don't know anything.
Exactly. So just getting deeper with the seller, not just surface level, like, okay, you're getting a divorce. Okay, here's $300,000. Do you want to take it or not?
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I've been coining new phrases lately. So I have a new selling process.
Okay.
It's called the quick pitch.
Okay.
So for my baseball people, you would know what I'm talking about. Quick pitch is like when you kind of just catch them off guard and you pitch it really fast. So like, you're getting in the box ready to hit. Did you ever play baseball growing up?
Yeah.
All right,
no, I lied. No.
No? Why would you lie?
I don't
Just
know.
because you're Puerto Rican?
I played like the baseball where it's on a stick.
T-ball?
Yeah, I played that, but I've never played baseball.
All right, this might not make sense to you.
I'm sorry.
So for anyone, you didn't technically lie.
Okay.
That's baseball.
I played soccer.
No, that doesn't apply.
Okay, it doesn't play. All right,
Okay.
sorry.
So, well, actually in soccer, I think they do have a pitch. They call like the opening kick or something the pitch. I don't know.
I played football. I don't know if there's any way.
No.
Oh, you could like quick, like when you walk up to the line.
A
you
quick
just hurry
snap.
up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So in baseball, right, the batter could be getting ready to hit, and this would annoy us so bad as a batter, but like, all of a sudden you look up and the pitcher's already pitching. It's just quick. He's
Why don't they
catching you
do
off
that
guard.
all the time?
Well, now they have a pitch clock, so they do, like, it's not as prevalent anymore because everyone's ready to hit now that there's a clock. But before, it was just
take
kind
your
of like
time.
an unwritten rule, like, yo, dude, like, that's not good sportsmanship.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So, anyways, we'd get pissed if a pitcher would do that. And, you call time and try to mess with their timing now. And so you're just playing cat and mouse, pissing each other off. But anyways, the reason I like the quick pitch now is because it catches people off guard and honestly gets them to the point. So we're having the most success at Home Run Offer right now, quick pitching price.
Yeah.
Because, for all these years, we've always been teaching and doing like, hey, like, let's go into discovery. Let's
take 35 minutes.
Yeah.
You should be on the phone for 2 hours. That's Eric Klein's thing. So there's two methods right now. There's a big debate.
Is there?
Rather it's huge.
I didn't know this.
If you look on the local news, it's actually been on there.
It's on the local news. Wholesalers.
Yeah. So there's the quick pitch, which is like Ryan Pineda, RJ Bates. And then there's the Eric Klein, Tiffany High. I don't know any other wholesalers, but you're supposed to be on the phone for 2 hours.
Okay.
This is actually a big thing.
I didn't know this.
Yeah. Look it up. Yeah.
Look it up. I'll turn on channel 8. I'm going to see it. So anyways, I've done them all, right? I've gone in-person appointments. We've done virtual. We've done slow. We've done quick. I think that it does depend on the lead type for what's going to work best. I do think that like the quick pitch wouldn't have been the play with our TV ads. So I do think that setting an appointment, being slow with older people is probably a better bet. But with our new lead types, like with Facebook ads, these people want an offer right now.
Yeah. Because they're smart.
They've already submitted.
Yeah.
They want an offer.
I shouldn't say they're smart. They're educated.
Yeah. They know. They don't. And honestly, most people don't even have pain with selling a home.
They just want to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 transactions are just like, bro, like I just need to sell.
Yeah.
Like I'm moving. There's nothing to it.
Yeah.
I just need to move.
Yeah.
I'm not in distress.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where the problem has always been, where people are like, well, we only buy distressed houses. That's the only way to get a deal. No, there are people who just want an offer right now and they'll take less.
Yeah.
There's no distress. They just want simple. They want it done. They're impatient.
Yeah.
So anyways, we've been doing the quick pitch and literally, we're just straight up asking them at the gate. Like, so they're like, hey, is this so-and-so owner of whatever? I saw you filled out a form, a home run offer. Cool. How much you want for the property? And people are like, it catches them off guard because they're thinking we're going to go through this process. And, when people are going through that process, they're thinking about it for like 20 minutes of like, all right, when's he going to ask me about the price? And what's he going to offer?
Yeah.
It literally catches them so off guard that most people will just tell you what they want.
Yeah.
And so we're like, yeah, what do you want for the property? And they're like, I mean, if I get 400, that'd be good. And now we already have a baseline established and we start to figure out whether or not we can give them that. Because think about it, right? They've told me what they wanted. If I can give them what they want, we have a deal.
Yeah. You don't have to waste all this time.
No. And so a lot of deals, we can give them that because of Novation. And so we'll start getting into the pitch and we're like, well, there's not even a pitch. It's like, okay, 400. All right. Pretty close to market value. Let me ask you, do you care who buys it? People say no. Well, okay. So I think we could maybe get you 400. It just might take a little longer because we're not going to get a cash buyer for this. I mean, you're pretty close to retail. You understand that. You know, cash buyer is going to offer you probably 350, 320, and I know you don't want that. So, you know, if you just give me probably an extra like 30, 60 days, I think we can get you that. And they're like, that's cool. Like literally, that ends up being the whole conversation.
Yeah.
We don't need to dig. Like we're in agreement.
Yeah.
And there are salespeople who do that. Like they have an agreement. Somebody's like, yeah, I want to join the program. Yeah, I want to do the deal. And then you keep blabbing. Yeah, dude. So then you also get XYZ and it's going to be that. It's like, bro, just close the deal.
Yeah. And the people are like, I just want to get off the phone.
Yeah.
Or another mistake is with salespeople, they'll stay on the phone with someone for an hour.
That was never going to close.
Exactly. And now in their head, they did something, but they actually just wasted a bunch of time.
And that's why the quick pitch is great.
Yep.
Because you disqualify so fast. So like we're doing the same thing, you know, Lead Kitchen and Wealthy Investor and everything, because like right now, Lead Kitchen, that's why I say it on air. It's like, there's no secret. It's like, if you're not willing to spend at least $8,000 a month, it's not a fit and it's all good.
Yeah.
So instead of like digging into, hey, what are your current marketing strategies, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay. What's wrong with those strategies? Yeah. What? Okay. They're not working good. Okay. And then you spend 30 minutes and then you're like, okay, so
how much money do you have?
Yeah. Here's
nothing.
I have nothing. And I'm like, so now it's like, yo, it's so-and-so with Ryan Pineda's team. Saw you filled out Lead Kitchen. Did you watch the video? Because the video literally tells them the cost and everything. And they're like, no. And now they're like, all right, let me give you the 1 minute rundown. So Lead Kitchen is, you know, an agency where we run Ryan's ads in your market. They're proven to work for Ryan's company. He does it right now. He's closing 20 plus deals a month. We have clients all over the country who are doing it. Use Ryan's image, his likeness, proven ads. We literally do everything for you. And you could start as soon as tomorrow and start getting leads. The cost is $3,000 a month for the retainer. That covers everything on our team. Like I said, managing all of it. We're using Ryan's name, using his ads. We'll connect your CRM. It'll literally be all done for you. And then you also need to cover your ad spend. We don't charge on the ad spend. Whatever you spend is true what you're going to get in leads. And so, you know, we recommend a minimum of $5,000 ad spend, because if you don't spend more than $5,000, or if you don't spend at least $5,000, it's just not going to be good. You're not going to get enough data, enough leads to be successful. So we'd rather you not even do it. So all in all, $8,000 a month minimum. Is that within your marketing budget?
Yes or no? Yeah.
And then like, there's no like, oh man, I wonder what this cost. I wonder how long I'm gonna be on the phone.
Yeah.
It's
what
like,
do I get?
Now we're just getting to the point.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I mean, that's in my budget, but I have some questions. And it's like, all right, well, now let's go into discovery.
Yeah.
So we're actually just qualifying instantly.
Yeah.
Before discovery now.
Yeah, I think that's better. And I think with real estate, so when I was in real estate as a broker and then or an agent and then a wholesaler, I always came into every conversation with, does this person want to sell?
Right.
Like, period.
Yeah.
And I think most people, they're scared to find that out, because then they're like, oh, what if they're not qualified? Or what if I can convince them
to sell? No.
And it's true, but you can't.
No.
So like my first question was always like, hey, Ryan, you know, I see you filled out this form or whatever. Are you interested in selling your house?
Yeah.
If they're like, oh, give me an offer, I'm like, oh, okay. You didn't answer my question. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Do you want to sell this house? If they say yes, okay, perfect. Now I'm going to keep going into it. If they're like, oh, I just want to see what I can get, I'm not too sure, then I already know, like, okay, I don't need to waste a whole bunch of time with this person, because they're not even sure.
They're not serious.
If they say, yes, I want to sell because of blah, 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 okay, perfect. Now I could sit here and try to like work a deal.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. It's important to know your lead type.
Yeah.
Because with these Facebook leads we're getting, they're all filling it out.
Yeah. So they want
I want a cash offer.
Yeah.
So we don't even ask them that.
Yeah.
Like we already know that, right?
Yeah.
So when we call them, we're like, yo, is this so-and-so? Okay, cool. I saw you filled out the form of home run offer. How much do you want for the property?
Yeah.
Now, if you're cold calling, it's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to sell,
Yeah.
most of them.
They just want an offer.
Yeah. Well, no, most of them don't even, they weren't expecting you.
Yeah.
Like you cold called them.
Yeah.
So in most of those cases, it's going to be like, if you're making the initial outbound call, you know, hey, you want an offer on your home, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Tell me, you know, what's the condition like, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, that's what most people would do. The way I would do cold calling now, I don't do cold calling because we don't have to because our leads are so good. But the way I would do cold calling today with this new quick pitch is, hey, you know, did you want, you know, you have any interest in cash offer on your home? Yes. Okay. How much do you want? I don't know. Make me an offer. I would literally just make them the offer now.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything to even like, I would just be like, well, I mean, I don't really know much about your home, but looking at it, you know, it looks like properties are selling for, and I would put a low range. You know, it looks like properties are selling for cash at like 300 to 350. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
And they're just like, no, that's way too low. I need 400. Okay, 400. All right.
Yeah.
Well, if I could get you 400, would you sell it? Now that's when we get into would you sell?
Yeah.
So that's how I would just, I'm literally shooting for price right out the gate in everything we do now.
What do you think is like average time on the phone for your acquisition people?
Fast. And this is the other part of quick pitch. You're way more efficient.
Yeah.
They can go talk to 5 times as many sellers
Yeah.
than
They're
before.
not wasting a lot of time.
And if they do spend 30 minutes talking to a seller or a customer, you know they're qualified.
Yeah.
You're not spending 30 minutes to find out they're qualified.
Yeah.
You're spending 30 minutes handling objections, knowing they know the price, they're qualified, but they're not sold.
Yeah. And I think another thing salespeople make a mistake is they're scared to bring up the objections. So that's why I would say up front, do you want to sell?
Yeah.
Perfect. What is your price? Instead of like waiting till the very end and,
Yeah.
and them saying, oh, I want 400, you're at 350.
Yeah.
I got to go, or I got to talk to my wife. It's just like right out the gate. And the seller's not already tired of being on the phone with you.
Exactly.
And you're not getting exhausted talking to someone about selling their house for 45 minutes that actually is not going to work.
Yeah. Like even the thing that we've had our team start doing, and I learned this from Jeremy Miner across all the businesses, is making it seem like you're the one in a rush. So you call in, let's just use the homeowner, for example. Hey, is this Sally, whatever? All right, cool. Yeah. You know, this is Ryan, you know, looks like you filled out a form to buy house, or I wouldn't do it on an inbound lead because I know they're ready to go, but let's say I'm cold calling. Okay. So I'm cold calling. I'm like, hey, you know, is this Sally, the owner of 123 Main Street? Oh, okay, cool. Hey, just calling to see, you know, I got some other calls coming up here in a sec, but did you have any desire in getting a cash offer on your home? Like just making it seem like you have so much going on where it's like, hey, I got some other appointments scheduled here in a couple of minutes, but I just wanted to see, did you have any chance of wanting a cash offer on your home?
Yeah. So that way you're not coming across desperate.
That and that I'm not going to go spend all this time with them on the phone. I'm already setting a deadline where I'm like, hey, I have an appointment here in a few minutes. I just wanted to call and see, like, did you want a cash offer? And from there, obviously, if they say yes and it keeps, there was no appointment, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
But now you're just letting their guard down, making them feel like, oh, this guy's not going to keep me on the phone for 30 minutes. Because truly, we won't.
Yeah.
Like, if they tell me the price is the price and, you know, they're not serious, this is going to be a very quick call.
Yeah.
That's what we'd want.
Yeah.
And now, you know, even with like all the wealthy youth signups, it's like do the same thing where it's like, yo, you know, just making sure you got wealthy you. Awesome. Cool. You know, and they do have lots of calls, but it's like, hey, you know, just want to make sure you got logged. Okay, cool. Awesome. You know, I don't know if you know this, but Wealthy You is a, you know, do it yourself program. You're going to have to watch the videos, go to the trainings, and really do all these things yourself. And it's great. But we also have one-on-one with Rookie.
Yeah.
You know, it's extra. Do you want to hear more about that? And they're like, oh, well, yeah, actually one-on-one would be great. And then that leads to the conversation versus before it's like you spend 30 minutes like doing demos and then it's like, oh yeah, I have no money. I can't even afford software.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
That was a waste of time.
Yeah. I think another thing, so like that was like tactical, but I think like mindset wise, people are soft and
Say it.
they're soft.
Say it proud.
They're soft. They're scared to talk to people and they lack tenacity. So
Yeah.
even though I never had in the beginning like formal sales training, I just had tenacity where I just understood like no in sales doesn't mean no. It just means we have to figure it out. So I've had people, and I've told this story before where I had a seller one time call me the N-word during a meeting, during a pitch, and I didn't get up and storm and walk out. I was like, okay, I understand. Like, you might not like these type of people, but
You're like, but I'm not even black.
yeah, but I'm like, but do you want 300? And I ended up getting the deal under contract, I swear, after being called a sand N-word, because I just didn't care. I'm like, this doesn't imagine a baseball player at the mound, right, about to hit a ball. I don't know, is that over the plate?
Okay,
I don't know.
sure, go ahead.
The fans are like calling him names, and he's like, "Oh, whoa, hold
Time
on,
out.
hold on! Did you just call me a mother effer? I can't play like this."
Yeah,
no, right? They just have to do what needs to be done.
Yeah,
and I think salespeople or just entrepreneurs are soft, and they don't want to do what needs to be done. Sometimes it's negotiation, sometimes it's knocking on a seller's door for a contract.
I've done that.
It's handling objections. It's being told no. It's picking up the phone. Sometimes the phone feels like it's 10,000 pounds because they're just so scared of what people are going to say.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we had a call with this is everything, right? We had a call with an investor who, this deal's not going well. And, he's like freaking out. And I literally am like, let's talk.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, what did I do? Getting really mad. And I understand the deal sucks.
Yeah.
It's been a nightmare. Mm-hmm. And we get on a call literally for an hour, and I let him vent and, handle his objections and all these things. And literally, I only talked for about 2 minutes of it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, look, dude, I have more money than you in on this deal. Mm-hmm. I want it sold more than you.
Yeah.
If it could sell, it would have been gone a long time ago.
Yeah.
These are the only things we can do moving forward. Like, I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah.
You're a big boy. You have a successful business. Mm-hmm. We have a successful business. We understand there's risk with investing. We understand deals go south. Mm-hmm. This isn't your life savings. Mm-hmm. So I understand you're frustrated, but nobody here is like against each other.
Yeah.
We all want the same thing.
Yeah.
And so that's it. And it's just like people are afraid to have that conversation.
Yeah. With sellers, with lenders.
Yeah, they would ignore the lender. They would try to hide. And I'm just like, so what do you? Yeah, I'm like, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
The deal sucks. I get it.
Yeah.
And most people are even caught off guard by just being transparent, because most people will be like, trying to make excuses like, oh yeah, the deal's still good. And it's going to be all good. And like try to console them. I'm like,
we might have a buyer that's looking at it.
Yeah. Like everybody's just, but I hop on. I'm like, bro, it sucks.
Yeah.
So what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you want to do? Mm-hmm. And then at that point, now we're on the same, like on the level playing field. Mm-hmm. Like, so what do you suggest we do? Mm-hmm. Like, well, okay, well, we're doing everything that you would suggest we do to try and like sell this thing and get rid of it. Like, so people are just afraid to have hard conversations. And I think that just acknowledging it's hard usually gets the deal done.
Yeah.
Because you're not running, you're not like fluffing. It's just like, it is what it is. I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm not running. I'm sitting here. We can both be mad about it.
Exactly.
But it sucks.
That's like that seller. He was like, people are calling me and they're sending me mail. I'm tired of these people knocking on my door. And I'm like, yeah. So do you want to take 300? Because I know you want to sell. So what are we going to do? Or with a lender, it's like, yeah, dude, it sucks that we're going to lose money and I can't pay you back right now.
Yep.
But, we have an agreement that, when this house sells, you're going to get paid back.
Yep.
So has the house sold yet? No? Okay. Well, I am trying to sell it right now. I promise.
Well, and that's another thing I told him too. I go, in a decade of real estate investing, I've never had a lender lose money.
Yeah.
Now, is every deal gun clean? No.
Yeah, no.
And I go, so we're going to do our best to get this thing sold and done. And I don't know what it's going to sell for.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to sit here and I don't know. we may not make all of our money back selling this house.
Yeah.
And I may not be able to pay you right away. But in time, we'll figure out a way to make you whole.
Yeah.
And there's no promises on like how or when, like, because we don't know until it actually happens. We just don't know.
Yeah.
Once that happens, we'll come up with the next play.
What do you think? I think one of your superpowers after watching you over years is like, you don't let bad things stop you.
Yeah.
Like there's been several times where I'm like, dude, this employee said this, or this deal's falling apart, or this guy's like turning against us. And you're like, okay, like, doesn't matter. But other people, you know, they get cursed out one time by a seller and they're never going to get on the phones again. Like that's all it took for them to give up on their dreams and career.
Yeah.
So like, what do you think has helped you over the years continue, even though going through like some really hard times?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's perspective, right? So I've gone through harder things than 99.9% of the world.
Yeah.
And people wouldn't believe it because they're just like, well, dude, like your life's easy.
Yeah.
You have XYZ. I'm like, nah, bro. Like what you know, I was talking to one of our students. He's like, bro, this lender's breathing down my neck. Like I got to figure out a way. I'm like, how much do you owe him? He's like, $40,000. I had the same reaction. I was like, this is causing you that much stress?
Yeah.
Like, it's not even that like the deal, like he's just unhappy the deal isn't sold yet. Like, it's not like you're not going to pay. Like it just needs to sell and get done. I was like, really? That's like the problem. And that's what's causing you. But it takes going through that where you owe somebody $4 million.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And then you're just like 40, that's 1%. Like, that's nothing.
Yeah.
So I think it's perspective.
How do you get that perspective?
By doing hard things. You just have to, once he does that and he gets through this $40,000 issue, the next thing he's going to go through is a $400,000 issue.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to figure out to solve that.
Yeah.
And then he's going to go through a $4 million issue. And
but what about when someone's in the middle of it? Because in the middle of it, they don't have perspective. So they think...
But they do have perspective on other things they've gone through that were hard. Because at some point, he had to pay back $4,000 and it was really difficult. And I think it's reflecting on your past successes. Because like I've had to encounter more in this last storm than anything I ever did before. But I leaned on my past perspective of saying, well, and this is where faith comes into play too. Well, I got through this last storm, and in the grand scheme of things, that storm was actually harder compared to what I'm going through now. Even though this financial amount might be higher, just with my skills, my abilities, everything else back then, I didn't have what I have now.
Yeah.
Like I have way more opportunity and things to figure out how to solve this than I did back then. I was way more strapped to the solution. And I think faith also comes into it too with having eternal perspective. So for me, I just understand that, you know, this time here on earth is very limited in the span of eternity. It's literally that. We are nothing but a mist, the Bible says, in the span of eternity. And so when you start to think about that, you're like, wow, you know, as a believer, I'm going to have eternity in heaven and like life's going to be amazing. And I got to deal with sin and all the problems of this world for now. And it's so small and minute. And this problem will pass just like every other problem. There might be, you know, ramifications from this problem. My reputation might be hurt. You know, I might lose money, might have to start over, all those things. But my eternal security is still the same. The outcome is still going to be the same for eternity.
Yeah.
So why am I letting this thing make me feel this way when I already know what the final outcome is?
Yeah.
But you have to have faith that that's actually the case.
But why do you think people lack faith in themselves? Because I think that's like the main thing that stops people from becoming successful. They're like, I don't want to invest in education because what if it doesn't work?
Because my faith isn't in myself, it's in Jesus. If I was only relying on myself and my skills and I had no help, no supernatural help, then yeah, I would have a lot more doubts and insecurities and, you know, less. I mean, that's what faith is. It's faith in something bigger than you, something that you don't fully understand, something that you can't fully, you know, appreciate or visualize or see. That's faith. If you just could, it would be fact. And so for me, when you deal with a problem, it does take faith because you don't fully see how it's going to play out. You don't know how it's going to get solved, what are going to be the repercussions. And that's what most people struggle with when they have anxiety and problems. So for example, this lender, okay, I could tell them all day in the world that, hey, you're going to get paid back at some point. Most people struggle with knowing how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen. And that's why they freak out.
Yeah.
It's a lack of faith. But if God tells you that this is going to happen, you just don't know the timing or how or when. You just know, though, that because you trust God and because you have faith in God, that it will work out.
Yeah.
You just don't know how or when. And most people struggle with the how or when. Because if I had a promise to you and I said, Brian, you know, you're going to be ultra successful at flipping houses. I met you 7 years ago. You're going to like change lives at Wealthy Investor. You're going to host a podcast. You're going to do these things. First off, you got to choose whether or not to believe me. And then you got to have faith that at some point that will happen. And, you know, when it doesn't happen in year one, do you still have faith that it's going to happen? If it doesn't happen in year two, do you still have faith that it's going to happen if that was the promise you were given?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, like I said, most people just lack faith. That's the number one thing that stops people from doing anything in life, because maybe they have a job and they're like, I don't want to quit my job and do real estate because what if it doesn't work out? And what if, you know, I don't make any money and then I lose
the unknown.
everything? Yeah.
It's the unknown, right? And here's the thing, right? If you join Wealthy Investor or anything, there still is no guarantee you will be successful.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going to have faith in joining this program that by paying this money, by spending money on marketing, that taking a leap into building this business, that it will work out. Like you're betting on that.
Yeah.
That's already taking a step towards faith. Other people never even take the bet. 9 out of 10 don't even make the bet. They don't have faith.
Yeah.
They lack the faith that it's going to work out. Now, I'm not saying they don't have faith in Jesus. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying they don't have faith in this step that they're about to take in that direction. Because even the guy who takes the step to do it, he still doesn't know if it's going to work out. He just took the first step.
Yeah.
And that's what faith is. Faith is all about just taking the next step. Because you don't know what step 2 is going to be.
Do you believe that God wanted you to be successful?
I think God wants all of his people to be successful.
Why?
Success is, I mean, by the way, success is a subjective term.
Yeah.
Right?
Successful in business.
Well, that's a different thing, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that God's plan for everyone is that they're all going to be business people. Like clearly, there are pastors, there are, you know, just people who aren't in business that are really godly people. So when we define the word success, I think that the word prosper is more of the word I would use. And, you know, people are like, are you talking about the prosperity gospel? No, I'm talking about if you have the Holy Spirit inside of you, you cannot do anything but bear good fruit. Good fruit is prosperity. Everything around you is better because of the fruit that you bear. Your marriage, your kids, your work. You may not make a lot of money, but it's still success.
Yeah. Okay. I want to ask you 3 questions. So number 1, do you think God wanted you to be successful in business?
I think he created me with spiritual gifts that if I used them properly, that would lead to that. Yeah.
Okay.
I think he gave me gifts of wisdom, gifts of discernment, gifts of administration and leadership, and all these gifts that are clear gifts of someone who will thrive in business.
Okay. And then you said prosperity. You said if someone has the Holy Spirit, they will experience prosperity.
Yeah.
Then why are there some Christians who their business fails or their marriage fails or they go through hard times?
Well, I think that prosperity and success doesn't mean that everything's always going to be good by the world standards, right? I mean, the world still has sin. So no matter what, we're still dealing with sin in ourselves and around, you know, other people, right? So I could have the Holy Spirit and doesn't mean that something bad's not going to happen to my wife or kids. Right? Now, how I deal with that is going to be very different because I have the Holy Spirit and because, I have the supernatural God living inside of me. So, I mean, like I said at the beginning, prosperity and success are very subjective, right? You look at the Apostle Paul and the disciples, right? They were not, let's say, successful by the world's standards. Paul's in prison for many years. He's out preaching the gospel, being persecuted, all these things. So in the world's eyes, these guys were not having a successful, prosperous life. But if you ask them and you read the gospels and you read the epistles and you read their writing, you're like, no, these people, they don't believe they weren't successful. They believe they were doing exactly what they were called to do and that their life was blessed because of it.
I guess, why do you choose to believe in Jesus?
That's a good question. Why do I choose to believe? I think for me, there's really multiple things that lead to belief. And this, I guess, would be for all believers too. I think there are some that through life experience that nobody can ever take away from them, aka their testimony, belief is created. And so when you have these things that just cannot be explained, only God could have made them happen. That is going to increase your belief. And that's going to make you believe because you're like, there's no other way to explain this. The way I feel, how I got through the situation, the way God showed up, what I saw, all of those things would make you believe. And I would call those subjective things in your life that no one will ever be able to take away from you, even if you don't understand the Bible. Even if you can't debate theologically, no one can ever take away the things that have happened to you that shape your testimony. When you said that just one day, all the anxiety went away. There's nobody that could say anything otherwise that would ever change that part of your belief and your testimony. So I think there's that. And I've had many moments in my life of things like that. And then I think there are the objective things that add to my belief. And this is where things like apologetics come into play, where, if I'm comparing religions, if I'm looking at history and I'm looking at the world around me and what the Bible says about it, objectively, I look at all the facts and all the data and all the scripture and all the, things that have been dug up from thousands of years ago. And I say, dude, objectively, this is all true. There's nothing even close, remotely close. No other religion has anything remotely close to the amount of documents, history, collaborative efforts of looking at, this document's from 100 AD and it's still the same as the one we have today. That's incredible. Other scriptures don't have that. Other religious texts don't have anywhere near the amount of evidence that the Bible has. Every contradiction that people think that there could possibly be, are easily debunked. And then you look at other religions and you see the amount of contradictions, the lack of evidence, the things that happened along the way. And you're like, objectively, you cannot argue that they have anything close to the amount of truth that the Bible has. And so when I look at both of those things, my subjective and my objective, it just fuels my belief on that. Basically, my subjective things that have happened in my life confirm the things that, the truth of objectivity. Being objective is being the truth, essentially. They just go together, and that makes me believe.
Have you ever lacked faith?
Once again, lack is an interesting word.
Yeah, or have you ever gone through a period of time where you didn't believe? No,
not that I can think of. I would say lack faith, yes. But didn't believe, no. So, when my faith is weak, I don't know if God's going to pull through on this. I don't know. I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing questioning if God is real, questioning if the Bible is fake. I don't really, I can't think of the last time that's really been a thing. But just so we're all clear, I don't think that that's a bad thing if Christians are going through that. I think that my journey, everyone's journey is unique. I mean, I grew up in the church my whole life.
Yeah.
I've been studying the Bible my whole life. I've like had so many great mentors and pastors and fellowship and Bible studies and friends and other things. Like, so my faith is like, I would like to think really strong relative to most people.
Yeah.
And so, and not everyone's faith is equal, right? I mean, faith is something that just grows over time. Now, are there times where my faith like decreases because I'm getting hit after thing after thing after thing, and I'm like, dang, is God going to actually pull through? Like, I'm on a losing streak. But I don't think it's ever at the point where I'm like, yeah, I just don't believe this anymore, or I don't even know.
What about like, what was your journey like as a Christian? Like, obviously, like high level from like a child. Like, when were you baptized to like now? Because I think didn't you grow up Catholic or something like that?
No, I grew up Baptist. My dad grew up Catholic. Every Filipino's Catholic. But no, I mean, I grew up Baptist. So my dad had become Protestant. I don't know at what point. Maybe when he met my mom. But ironically, you know what's funny? And this is why, like, I'm not for or against Catholicism. Like, my dad and mom will still go to Catholic church, like, randomly.
Yeah. That's why I thought you were Catholic, because your dad was here the other day and he was talking about going to Catholic church.
But they'll also go to Christian church, too.
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing. But no, I never grew up going to Catholic church. I've probably been to Catholic church like twice in my life for just random things. And then, I got baptized when I was 18. So, I mean, I believed long before that, but I just, for whatever reason, never got baptized. Like, my parents didn't tell me to. Like, actually, I forgot about this. I remember, this is funny you bring this up. I remember actually when I was like 8 or 9, I was going to get baptized. And, you know, they brought me into the church with my parents, and basically they were like, okay, so Ryan, why do you want to get baptized? And I just didn't understand why I wanted to get baptized. Like, you know, I was just like, yeah, you know, the water's like special. I remember saying that when I was like 8.
Oh, okay.
You know, and basically they were like, yeah, I think he needs to like wait.
That's funny because
we don't baptize babies around here.
I was when me and my wife took the kids to California, I was swimming in the pool with Camila and Levi, and Camila said, "Daddy, can you baptize me?" And I was like, "Oh, why do you want to get baptized?" And then she said something that was just like, she just didn't know.
She didn't get it yet.
Yeah, she didn't get it. Like, she just said something crazy, and I was like, "Oh, okay." Like,
we'll wait.
Yeah, we'll wait. But it was good that she said that.
And that's kind of where I was at. So, you know, now your kids, thankfully, they're young when you finally got saved. So, like, they're going to grow up in the church the same way I did.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that you'll probably be better at teaching them than maybe my parents were. Like, obviously, we grew up Christian, but it's not like my parents weren't teaching me theological things.
Yeah.
Like, it was more so like, you know, Jesus is the Son of God, like the base, Jesus is the Son of God. And, you know, God created all of this. And it was all those things, but it was never like, okay, so they never pushed me like, hey, you got to get baptized now that you believe. Like, I will be that way with my kids, where I'm going to clearly explain like, hey, when you're ready and you actually fully believe in all these things, like, we're going to say the prayer together, and then, you know, we're going to get you baptized. But it's not going to be this thing like, we need to get you baptized.
Yeah.
You know, it'll like, they'll understand. I didn't understand when or why I was supposed, I'm like, I believe in God. And I think there's a lot of Christians like that. They just don't understand that that's the next step.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when I was 18, I finally was like, dude, I haven't even been baptized yet. Like, I've been a believer forever. And I was getting ready to go off to college, and I was like, I need to get baptized. And so I scheduled it.
Yeah. And so you got baptized at 18. And then do you feel like your faith has been the same from 18 to
and
now?
by the way, when I got baptized, my dad got baptized and my sister got baptized too. So my dad had never been baptized. I think my dad was baptized when he was a baby, but he had never been baptized as an adult with his own decision.
Okay. And then do you feel like your faith has been the same from like 18 to 35, 36?
No.
Like, what were some of the low moments?
I like to think that my faith is like my business. It's kind of like, it's trending up.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's going to be peaks and valleys. But overall, in the last 17 years, it's trended up.
Yeah.
That's what I would like to think.
What do you think was like the biggest valley?
Well, I think the biggest valleys are not necessarily created from just you questioning faith. It's created from the things happening to you in your life that then make you question faith. So, for example, I grew up always being this great baseball player, and I'm on the path, and I'm, going to college, and, I'm getting drafted. And then 3 years in, the Oakland A's release me. And so I'm 24 years old, like really, like, wow. Like, God, I thought that this was the plan for me. Now what? I don't know what to do with my life. I haven't been successful at anything other than baseball. What am I supposed to do? Like, and in my mind, I'm like, I've been faithful. I've been, talking to my teammates about God, like consistently going to church and read. Like, I feel like you owe me.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang, that's a wild thought.
Well, when you're 24 and dumb, but clearly God doesn't owe me anything, right?
Yeah.
But that would be a moment where I was like lost and like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, kind of mad, all these things. So, I mean, that's a moment. Trying to think what else. I mean, like I said, you can correlate it to any time you go through something really hard in life. So it's like, that was one of the hardest moments of my life. With James and his birth, like that's another hard moment of like, is my son going to live? Like, why is this happening to us? Like, what's going on here? And then for him to have brain surgery and other things, like, it's not like I was questioning my faith and like, man, God, if he doesn't make it through this, you're not real. It was more like, man, I've been doing what I feel like you've wanted me to do. Why is this happening to me? And so I think that my faith has been maybe more of entitlement of like, I feel like I'm doing all the right things. Nothing bad should happen to me. And that's just not true.
Yeah, I think after talking to a lot of Christians now for the last year, there's like 2 reasons people stop being Christians. 2 main reasons. 1, something bad happens.
Yeah.
And 2, something bad happened at the church. So like church hurt. Like the pastor did something, they met a weird person, and then they just stopped believing.
Normal everyday life.
Yeah.
We have sin. Sin is still in the church. Sin is in the world. Things bad are going to happen to you outside the church. Things bad are going to happen to you inside the church. There's going to be something that happens at our church today that's going to piss you off, and you'll have a choice to make. How do you handle it? And that's what causes faith. Like, it's just life things that happen to you. And a lot of it could be from your own bad decisions. Most of it is usually your own bad decisions. Very rarely do things happen to you that weren't self-inflicted.
Yeah.
And I think that stop being Christian is a interesting word because I would be of the belief that you were never Christian to begin with.
Interesting.
Because I don't think that you can stop being Christian.
So you don't think someone can believe and then stop believing?
I think that they had false belief to begin with.
What does that mean?
Well, I think in Matthew 7, they talk about this, where there's a lot of people who seem like they're doing all the right things, or, they're saying, Lord, Lord, look at all these things we did for, it's Matthew 7:21-23. And he says, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not cast out demons? Did we not perform many miracles? And then Jesus says, hey, on that day, I'm going to say, I never knew you. And so like there's people basically doing what looks like the right things, but their hearts were never really transformed. They were somewhat like the Pharisees, where they're just doing these actions, but they were never changed from the inside out. They were never actually filled with the Holy Spirit. I don't believe that the Holy Spirit can leave you once he's there.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think like Judas, who's the guy that betrayed Jesus?
Judas, yeah.
Do you believe that he was Christian?
No.
Dang.
You could be walking with Jesus right there. That doesn't make you Christian.
But even if he went back and was like, hey, I'm sorry, here are the coins, I messed up.
I mean, he ended up hanging himself and,
Yeah.
I mean, other guys committed terrible things too, and they had true repentance. Paul was killing Christians.
Yeah.
And then he had true repentance and he gave his life to Christ and he continued on. You know, Peter, he denied Jesus 3 times when it really came down to it. And then, you know, he was forgiven and moved on. A lot of people don't let their past, they let their past prevent them from ever having a future or happiness.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson I've been learning a lot lately with life is that, you know, I look at my past business mistakes and bad investments and things that I've done wrong. And I know that Satan would like me to have that become my new identity.
Yeah.
Well, look at all this. This didn't work out. Look at what this person said about you. Look at that bad investment. You're not a good real estate investor.
Yeah.
You're not a good person. You know, you wouldn't have lost that person money if you were a good person. And people struggle with their past.
Yeah.
And Jesus calls us to shed our old self and embrace the new. And that's not just a one-time thing. That's constantly happening every day. That's the whole point of sanctification. Sanctification is the process of becoming more like Jesus every day. So you have to constantly shed your old ways and become more like Jesus every day. It's not you're just 100% like Jesus the moment, you know, you believe. It's a process. And so I have to constantly shed my old ways, which are still there. I'm not like Jesus yet. I'm trying to be more like him, but I'm not there. So I'm going to keep shedding as I keep becoming more like him. And so just, I think people in general let their past continue to define them, all of their mistakes. And social media makes this even harder, especially as you become famous, because people will always bring up your past.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, I'm 35 years old. You know how many bad things I've done?
Yeah.
When I'm 50,
Yeah.
how many more will I have done?
Yeah.
So am I going to let every past mistake define me going forward in my identity, or is my identity in Christ?
Yeah. I struggled with that when I first started going to church because I was like, okay, like I used to do drugs. I used to have sex before marriage. I used to watch porn. I would get drunk. I would do all these things. And then I was just like, I don't want to go to church and be fake. So I just don't want to go to church.
Yeah.
Like that was my mindset. And it was like you said, my past of like sleeping around and all the bad things that I did.
All that guilt hangs over you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then even now, still today, like just random times, I'm like, dude, I'm like a bad person. Like the stuff that I did when I was 21.
And by the way, you are.
Yeah. I know.
And that's the beauty
Yeah.
of forgiveness and what Jesus did. Because you're a bad person. I'm a bad person. Everyone in the world is a bad person. And there's nothing we can do or deserve to ever be forgiven for all the people we've hurt along the way.
But why do you think Christians struggle forgiving people? Because even like I posted a Donald Trump thing of him talking about Jesus.
Yeah.
And people blew up the comments like, he's done this, he's done that.
Yeah.
He had a steak business
Guess
that
what?
fell out.
Yeah, look, Trump's 80 years old.
Yeah.
If you make it to 80,
Yeah.
let's bring up all your baggage, even
Yeah.
as the best Christian.
And especially as an entrepreneur. Like not trying to defend Trump, but as an entrepreneur, things fail
Oh, yeah.
a lot.
A lot.
So
You're going to have tons of bad investments, businesses that fail, things that hurt. Like, that's just life.
But why
when
do
you do
Christians
a lot?
judge? Why do Christians fail when it comes to judging others, even though they know better?
Because they're not far in the sanctification process. If you are right here at the very beginning of your faith journey and you don't spend time with God, you don't understand that concept, then you're just going to go back to your old ways, which is what you're talking about. These guys are still of the world, you know, doing what the world would do, judging on past mistakes and all these things, not looking at, oh, dang, like, yeah, I've screwed up a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, like people change. Oh, like he's working on it. You know, I've had to have this conversation with lots of Christians who are even like, let's say even more mature on the sanctification scale. And they're like, what do you think of that guy? You know, that's on set, like a big guy. You know, he's out here doing X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Right? But he's talking about Jesus.
Yeah.
And because I know usually that person, and I've had conversations with them behind the scenes too, and because I just have I don't know, a longer perspective. Maybe I'm a little further along, let's just say. Like I can look at it truly in I'll try to look at it through the way that the Holy Spirit would have me look at it and say, I mean, this person's a brand new believer, man. He just, he found Jesus a year. I've had to defend you. I've had to defend, and I'm like, dude, you know, he's only known Jesus for like a year, right?
Yeah.
Like, he ain't going to be perfect right at the gate. He's still going to have a lot of his old self that resurfaces out of the blue, and he's going to have to constantly
but that's what I'm talking about.
They're immature without knowing it. They're just immature in their faith. They don't get it. And then there are people who become so mature in their faith that they become like the Pharisees and they become self-righteous. And so you have what I would call critical Christians. And these are even worse because they don't have they actually have experience and everything else, and they're still this way. Whereas the immature Christian is new. So I would call you an immature Christian. You're like rapidly developing, which is amazing. But still, it's been a year.
Yeah.
Let's say you got a Christian who's been 20 years. And they're on the side of critical, where they criticize every little thing other Christians do. They're very much like the Pharisees, you know? And I used to kind of be one of them too, where I wouldn't like a guy like Joel Osteen or, you know, other guys that I deem to be like, let's just say heretics or false pastors or whatever, right?
That's the guy that cheated on his wife?
No. And that's another thing that's crazy about Joel Osteen is like, that guy's never had any drama. People just talk crap.
Is that the Elevation pastor? Who is that?
Well, that's Furtick. But Furtick didn't have that. I mean, there's other pastors that have.
Yeah.
But my point is, like, you have critical Christians who all they do is criticize. And they themselves ain't doing crap. And they're even worse, in my opinion. Because they should know better, but their hearts have become hardened.
Yeah, that's just something that I've just like, because again, this is not me defending Trump, because I posted Trump stuff and I posted Kamala stuff, but both of them blew up with comments like, they've done this, they've done that, they've done this. It's
immaturity.
Like, yeah.
What you've done in the past does not matter going forward if you're a believer in Christ. It's all been forgiven. All you can do is make your choices going forward. And you're still going to mess up. But as long as you become more like Jesus, you should ideally mess up less and produce more fruit. And so if I'm looking at somebody, I'm looking at their life today versus what it was. And so ideally, somebody should really say, dude, your life back then was terrible. And I'm like, thank God I have Jesus, because it ain't like that anymore. And I'm still definitely not a finished product, but man, yeah, I'm ashamed of that guy too. You're right. It goes back to just that transparency of like, yeah, I did do those things. Like, it's all good. I have Jesus now, and you can hold them against me if you want. But that's something I don't care if you hold it against me.
Yeah.
But that's something you're going to have to deal with. And by the way, if you're the one holding everything against everyone, your life probably sucks.
Yeah.
You're back in this critical camp, whether you're a Christian or not. If you're always criticizing other people, it's because your life is not where you want it to be. And therefore, you have to find fulfillment in criticizing others. I've yet to find one person who has joy and peace and is emulating Jesus and living this life who's just criticizing everyone. I can't find him.
Yeah.
Even when people will ask me about guys that we've worked with that piss me off.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even want to talk about it. I'm just not even going to bring it up. But the old flesh of me would be like, oh, let me tell you what this guy freaking did. And I'm like, it's just going to piss me off talking about it. I don't even want to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is how every wealthy investor podcast ends, right?
Exactly. This was all just a big sales pitch, guys. So
go watch if you want to see like an hour of real estate and then get into Jesus for the next hour.
Yeah.
Go to the Wealthy Investor podcast.
It's good because there's more stuff I want to talk to you about, but I know we got to go. But yeah, there's like a lot of things that I still wonder about that is just kind of confusing as like a newer Christian, how like
why these experienced Christians do that.
Yeah. Or like people that have been in church for 25 years and they know nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's the Gospels? They're like,
I would.
I don't know. And I'm like, you've been going to church for 15 years. How do you not know?
I don't think it's any different than when you look at a realtor who's been in the industry for 20 years and they still don't know anything.
Yeah.
It's like, you still have never heard of wholesaling?
Yeah.
People are just ignorant.
Yeah.
They don't choose to want to learn.
Yeah. It's and I have to do a job of not judging them, but I just the more I learn, the more I'm like, I don't understand how these people just don't know. Or they just don't read the Bible.
I think it's also important to have compassion on those people.
Yeah.
Because I think that most of those people, it's not that it's out of maybe their own choice. Mm-hmm. I think that maybe their environment just hasn't been great, right? It's like you're lucky that you've been in this environment that has been promoting and activating and harnessing everything you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine if you were just in California by yourself and you didn't have all this, right?
Yeah.
So like I look at the guys in our Bible study and I see these guys are like on fire, ready, like wanting to get better.
Yeah.
But they weren't that way before that.
Yeah.
And what if they never found our Bible study? Mm-hmm. How would they be? Mm-hmm. And so I look at a lot of these guys with compassion.